Hey guys, Ian here, and in this video, I wanted to talk about why I believe self-discipline is a myth. I wanted to create this video because I keep hearing all over the internet that all you need to achieve your goals is to have self-discipline and to simply build better habits. Just get out of bed. Just lose weight. Just do what you need to do. And they also say that motivation is fleeting and that you can't rely on it. That's why I wanted to make this video to say that this is the wrong way to look at things. Let me start with this. Discipline is defined as a system with rules and consequences intended to instill self-control within you. When you think of discipline, think of it like going to school where you had to go to class and you had to be there on time or else you got detention. Or just like prison where you have to behave or else you'll be thrown into solitary. That is what discipline is. Motivation, on the other hand, is your inner reason for why you would want to do something. Now, this can be internal or external, but there's a lot of different reasons why you would have a motive for doing something. The reason why you want to lose weight, for example, your motivation, so to speak, is that you want to look good. Now, the problem here is that the people who say just be self-disciplined often underestimate how much is involved with getting someone to do something that they don't want to do, even under the best circumstances. Now, here is why I think they're looking at this the wrong way. And I'll go through debunking each part. Some people say that all you need is to be self-disciplined enough to build a habit, that if you can last for 6 weeks or 3 months, that it'll carry you from there. This isn't really true though. Think about how many people with New Year's resolutions that drop out after 3 months. Why didn't this habit process work for them? And sure, for some it might work, but for the majority, it really doesn't. Okay. What about all the people who say all you need is just self-discipline by itself? That you just need to get it done. Like the Nike slogan, just exert self-control and just do it. But this in and of itself is a paradox. When you think about it, to not be lazy, you have to put in effort. But to put in effort, you have to not be lazy. So how do you do the things you don't want to do? And here's what people continue to say to that I don't like. Just do it. But to me, that sounds empty. If all people had to do was just do it, then people would be quitting cigarettes or alcohol with no issues. Or they would go to bed on time, eat healthy, and work out. But of course that's not how things work, because there's more to it than that. Because in order for you to achieve your goals, you have to sacrifice your current self for your future self. But you can't just do it if you're not willing to make that sacrifice. Alright, so now that I've said a lot about why I think the current line of thinking is wrong, let me try to reframe the situation. Remember, discipline is a system of rules and consequences. The key part is in the second half, the consequences. We have many systems of discipline in our society that have consequences. School requires that you do your essay or else you'll fail the class and have to repeat a grade. Prison requires that you behave and serve your time or else you'll have to stay longer. Rehab requires that you stay clean or else you'll have your privileges revoked. These are all forms of discipline, systems that have rules and consequences. Essentially, their rationale for why you have to do anything while you're in their system is just do it, or else. And that's the key part that's missing in regular life. Not the just do it, but the or else. See, once you graduate school, no one's requiring you to learn more. When you leave prison, guards aren't monitoring your every move outside of some probation. When you leave rehab, you're no longer being checked on. You no longer have that or else, and so you no longer have that system of discipline. This is why people often relapse when they get out, because they're thrown back into that situation that got them there, and so they no longer have that or else in their lives. This includes the most disciplined people you can possibly think of, including those in the military. Once they get sent home on leave, many get kinda lazy and out of shape. Once they go back in service though, they tend to lose all the weight. They get their or else discipline system back. But even this isn't everlasting, because you're not going to be watched by someone forever. You're not going to have those consequences imposed on you either. And this is why many people, unfortunately, tend to fall apart. Some just end up staying in prison forever because they need the consequences. So how do you fix this? Well, you start by figuring out how the process works. Something people need to understand is that nature is in and of itself lazy. and that's by design. It follows the path of least resistance, just like electricity, gravity, or the direction that water flows. It's inherently built into our nature, but there are ways to work around this though. Think about any essay you've ever had to write. Chances are you waited into the last day to do it. You could be given 6 months and you'd still wait until the last day. This is actually a key part in all of this. The pressure of the consequence deadline is incredibly powerful to get you to move. But in regular life, you don't really have hard deadlines outside of maybe the ones at your job. This is why all systems of discipline need to eventually turn into motivation in order to be long-lasting. Schools need to inspire you to greater learning. Prison needs to motivate you by giving you a reason to be better. Rehab needs to give you a reason why to get off addictions permanently. Now, think of any time in your life where you were inspired to do something. Inspiration is when an artist sees something and gets the urge to paint. It's when you come out of a kung fu movie wanting to karate chop away at people. It's when a teenager who has no hope sees a military recruiting ad and decides to make something better of themselves. Anytime someone ever sets out to achieve a goal or do a hobby, it usually happens because they were first inspired to do so. But inspiration is only the beginning. First, you get inspired. Then, once you're involved, you get disciplined through a system of rules and consequences. And finally, whether or not you continue depends on your motivation. Motivation is your long-term feelings about your goal or your hobby. Discipline that doesn't turn into motivation will eventually burn out. All the tactics in the world are good, but they mean nothing if there's no driving force behind them. Even US Navy SEALs are not only described as highly disciplined, but also highly motivated. So, what happens when you waver in your motivation? When you're not motivated, it's because you feel like either your effort won't help you achieve your goal, or you feel like the goal is just not worth the trouble. And sometimes you'll find out you don't really want some things, and that's okay. But what about the things that are essential, like our health? Can you make someone want to be more healthy? Maybe to a degree, but it's not usually anything that's reliable. See, people are irrational by nature. We're more motivated to avoid losing something than we are to gain something. We don't really care about being healthy or preventing sickness, but we will do whatever it takes if the threat is immediately present and we have something to lose from it, if the consequence is there. Imagine if the government said you'll be jailed for a year if you don't lose 2 pounds in the next month. You know how motivated you would be as the deadline got closer? I'm not saying that you need to go that far, but if you're going to rely on discipline alone, then there needs to be a strong enough consequence. Let's say you gave your friend $1,000 and you won't get it back unless you achieve your goal by a certain date. You might hate yourself for making that decision later on, but you will achieve your goal if the consequence of not doing so is strong enough. For some people though, it has the opposite effect. They'd rather lose everything, which is why discipline isn't enough on its own. For some people, the problem is their environment. There was a study done with rats in drug addictions called Rat Park. They found out that rats constrained to a small cage were much more likely to take the drugs given to them. However, the rats in an open area with tons of fun things to do were much less likely to take the drugs. Taking this even further, some of the most violent prisoners tend to turn things around when they're given a dog to take care of, because it gives them a sense of purpose. They're not taught how to be better. They're given a reason why they need to be better. Okay, what about everyday regular people who just want to have a hobby or some sort of goal? Well, the beginning stages of any goal or hobby are often the most difficult just because of how much there is to learn. Want to learn karate? Well, you might start out excited and motivated, but there are black belts who can crush you. And this is going to be happening while you're struggling. What's happening here is that you're seeing pros punch several bricks in half when you're barely able to even punch properly. You didn't realize how hard it was and how much time and sacrifice it takes. You want to do what they can do, but you feel like you just can't. It's demotivating to see just how much of a gap there is between you and them. To make things worse, you might even see some prodigies pick it up easily and become more successful in the time that it took you to learn the basics. So just give up. It's okay if you feel like something is just not for you. That, or let it become your greatest inspiration. You'll know whether you love something or not when you see the grind ahead of you and still want to move forward. People will look at you like you're crazy, and to be frank, you kinda have to be. The amount of work required to be considered good, or at least better than most, takes an incredible amount of effort. You do it because you find it fun to learn more and to get better. Anything less will result in you faltering in your faith and motivation. So how do you become inspired and stay motivated? Well, it can start in many ways, such as seeing something that looked like fun that you wanted to do, or someone you know made a great impression on you. Inspiration tends to come to you through people and moments, but it's also there for people who seek it out. If you find yourself in a position where you have no motivation or inspiration, then you need to seek out a reason why to be better. The good news is, there are core things inside of you that you've always cared about, and always will. If you find yourself in a situation where you're hopeless, low energy, or in a bad situation, then start by thinking about all the things you are thankful for. This positive frame of mind tends to snowball on itself, which turns into energy for you to use. And when things get too difficult, there'll be a reason why it is that you keep going. Till next time.